A common question I get asked is, how do I stop snacking? How do I stop eating mince pies at Christmas or snacking on biscuits in the office or whatever it is? How do I stop X? How do I stop this habit? How do I stop myself from indulging? So we're going to answer that question in this video. So when you're trying to stop a habit like that, which feels good to you, which is pleasurable, is sensually pleasurable to you, the first thing we need to do is not rely on your willpower. Don't rely solely on your willpower, okay? Let me explain. So your willpower, you do have the willpower to just stop eating the crap. Yeah, you do have the willpower to just not touch the biscuits or the mince pies or whatever it is that you're trying to stop eating. You do have the willpower to do it. It's just that the story you tell yourself around having those foods is not compelling enough. You don't. It's the story basically. Yeah, it's the context. It's your thoughts that are the issue. So you're trying to change the behavior without looking at your thinking. Yeah. So all of the actions it stems from the thinking. So questioning your beliefs and your thoughts is really where the long-term change happens with this sort of stuff, rather than just short-term resisting, and then giving in, resisting, giving in, which is what a lot of people do. And that's why they feel like they must be missing a trick. How come other people can do it and I can't? And this is the trick that you're missing, okay? So what you need to do is tell yourself a different story around the food. Think of it this way. If you were put into some weird, what's that movie with the, what's it called? The little clown thing on the bike where, Saw, that's it. So imagine the movie Saw, where if you got kidnapped or something and you got put into a maze and you've got to live in that maze, and I don't know why I said a maze, but you got to live in this place and there's junk food everywhere and there's healthy food everywhere. And you can eat what you want. But if you eat the junk food, every time you indulge in the junk food, someone you love is going to die. Yeah. How often would you eat the junk food? You probably wouldn't touch it, right? You're pretty certain that you would not touch it. So you do have the capacity and the ability to not do it. It's just that the severity of the consequences are not obvious to you. So that's one example of what I mean by this, but it's not a perfect analogy for what we're going to do. So you're not going to increase the consequences and think about the consequences of indulging in the bad food and that, because that doesn't necessarily work. You've got, like on packs of cigarettes, you've got people with their lungs falling out of their bloody mouth, and that still doesn't stop people from smoking cigarettes. So that's not going to work in this situation. But what you can do is realize that it's not your fault that you are craving these foods. It's not your fault that you enjoy eating them foods so much. Okay, so realizing how these foods came about, the junk food, the highly palatable foods that you just cannot resist and you can't stop eating, they came about through purposeful, intentional design to make you addicted to them. Yeah, so there's companies that make certain products and make certain foods in a certain way to make them hyper palatable, to make your body just like, your brain and your body just can't resist eating them, okay? So this is really important. This is really important for you to understand, because it changes the narrative in your mind. These are not just like natural foods that are found in your environment and it's your fault for not having the willpower to overcome the urge to eat them. That's not what is the case. That's not the truth. Okay, the truth is these have been engineered and purposely designed to try and get you addicted to them. Yeah, so you spend your money on these foods, and regardless of whether it makes you sick or whether it's good for your health, or that's not even in the discussion. That's not in the conversation. Yeah, it's all about getting you to buy the product over and over again and get addicted to it and get hooked on it. Okay, so the reason why it's important to really think about that, and really understand that, because then it changes. It's like if you're in an abusive relationship and you blame yourself for getting abused by the other person. So initially you're blaming yourself. The only way you can really break out of it and you realize, no, it's not actually your fault. It's corruption on the other side. There's something wrong with the person that's doing the abuse. Yeah, it's not actually you. You need to change the narrative and the story in your mind. This is why a lot of people stay in abusive relationships. It's the story and the narrative that they tell themselves. Yeah, so you've got to become aware of what narrative is playing in your mind on an unconscious level. You've got to make it conscious. So when you decide, right, I'm not going to have any biscuits or any mince pies in the office or whatever it is, and then you go and you feel the pull towards having it, what is the justification? What is the story that you tell yourself when it comes to indulging in them foods? And most of the time I find that a big component of it is emotions, especially negative emotions. And there tends to be like this negative kind of emotional cycle people go through, because they'll indulge in a behavior they said they wasn't going to do, and then they'll feel guilty about it, and then because they feel like crap, they want to make themselves feel better, and then they indulge in them foods again. You know, so we do get ourselves stuck in these cycles, and it's hard to, especially when it's got a lot of momentum around it, because you've done it for such a long time. It can be hard to break the pattern. But you can do it. It can happen. You can do it. And it starts with you making a decision that that's what you want to do. That ultimately you've had enough of the way things have been, and you've had enough of the way things are, and you want to make a change. That's what it starts with. It starts with you making a decision. So yeah, and I want to make clear the difference between fault and responsibility as well. Yeah, so when I say it's not your fault, it doesn't mean it's not your responsibility. Something may not be your fault, you know, so some external circumstances, or maybe some conditioning happened, you know, when you was a young kid or whatever. Some things may have happened that were out of your conscious control. Yeah, you couldn't have made a conscious decision to make it different than it was. That doesn't make it not your responsibility. Okay, so responsibility just means your ability to respond. You can choose how you are going to respond to that situation. Okay, so, and that's empowering. So in some weird ways, it sounds like some people take it, they get defensive and they feel like they're being blamed when you say take responsibility. But it's not your fault. It's none of it's your fault. It's like your responsibility. You can now choose how to act and what to focus on, and what actions you're going to take. You can choose that. You can choose the narrative to believe. What thoughts are you going to believe to be true? Yeah, because not every thought you have is necessarily true. You need to question your beliefs. So that's where your responsibility is. Your ability to respond. You get to choose that. And a lot of the times, change can be scary. Change can be really scary. Even if it's a small thing as like, what am I going to do if I don't have that comfort? You know, that change can be very scary, because it's what you've been used to. It's what you're familiar with. As I said before, it's like when I reference people maybe in an abusive relationship, it's familiar. They have no idea what is outside of that relationship. How are they going to survive? How are they going to, you know, get connection and comfort? And they're maybe scared of, you know, breaking that relationship, because it's moving into the unknown territory. Yeah, if you've always, since a very young kid, comforted yourself through food, maybe a relative, your grandmother or someone showed you love by giving you food, and you do it for yourself now. And if you feel like that's taken away, then it's scary. It can be terrifying. But you don't have to have it completely peeled away and taken away. All we want to do is stop that negative cycle with it. We want to stop that negative emotion of this, I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. That's ultimately what we want to stop. It's not having the crap food is not a problem. You can have a mince pie and a cookie and stuff. And the reason why the people that have such an issue with it is the people that have negative emotion when they do it. Yeah, and they feel guilty and they feel bad about consuming them foods. That's what perpetuates it and paradoxically makes you eat more of it. Yeah, so the emotional side of it is I really think that the reason why a lot of diets, like there's a lot of diets that are out there to help with certain health issues. Yeah, with autoimmune diseases and cancers and all that sort of stuff. And I think one of the components that help people to heal from certain disease states when they change their diet is the fact that they're being forced to confront and deal with and process emotions that they've been suppressing using food for a very long time, or maybe alcohol or sex or whatever it is. Yeah, when you have to change your habits and change your behaviors, and take things away that you've used to suppress emotions in certain ways, then a lot of that stuff can come up, and you've got to process it. So it can be a challenging time. So don't underestimate this stuff. But you are far more powerful than you think you are. You are capable of so much more than you think you are. Yeah, I've found that for myself. And there's a book that I'm kind of halfway through at the minute, the audio book, Man's Search for Meaning. Incredible, absolutely incredible. If you listen to that book, if you need some motivation and realize, like, not even motivate, I wouldn't call it motivation. It's if you want to realize what humans are actually capable of going through, and how lucky you are to be in the position you are and have the choices that you do, listen to that book. It is an incredible book. I've just got a couple of notes here to make sure I haven't missed anything that I wanted to go through on this video. So yeah, the last thing I want to say is, don't just focus on what you're trying to eliminate and cut out and restrict in your diet. Focus on foods that you love to eat. So one of the main things that really help to keep you satiated, so you're not going to be, as ravenous, is high protein, really high quality source, protein, high quality protein sources, and nice big enjoyable meals. Find ways to cook that you're going to enjoy them healthy foods. Yeah, so find whatever that means for you. If you're vegan, find some vegan dishes. If you eat meat, find some high quality meat. Whatever it is, find some ways to cook it. And you don't have to cook it in necessarily the healthiest way. You don't have to steam all your vegetables and boil your chicken and make it so it tastes like arse. You can actually go and find a way that you're going to actually enjoy consuming them foods, and make foods that you look forward to eating, and try to eat them socially if you can, if you have the choice. Cook for other people and eat together. And then you can get that same sort of connection and that feeling of love with good, healthy, nourishing foods. Okay? So yeah, focus on foods you're going to eat. Make sure, especially if you're struggling with snacking throughout the day and eating junk food throughout the day, start having breakfast. Start having a decent lunch. Start preparing and planning. Yeah, so rather than in the evening, you're like, I haven't got time. Bullshit, you haven't got time. I guarantee you're sat there scrolling, through some crappy TikTok, whatever. You know what I mean? There's some time where you can sit and make a little plan, and then do a little food shop online. It doesn't take that much time. It doesn't take that much time. Okay, so make the effort, change the narrative, become aware of the story that you're telling yourself. And yeah, hope that video has helped you. Drop a comment below if you've got any comments about this video, and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.